So I'm gonna I whilst you were watching the other videos, I did set you all up with the test access. I don't know if you've had emails come
That's
through
okay.
about lovely. So that will be something that you can log in afterwards and just have a play with. Your username and password will be completely different from the live account, so make sure you kind of keep them separate. And you will be, just like you did with the live account, you will be prompted to change the password, with the same sort of restrictions on the password. So just be mindful about which environment, as Jack was saying in the video, which one you're in. So if you want to bookmark, one as test and one as live, then obviously you sort of know which one is which. I'm going to be probably flicking between the two in the demo because so our test site is where we build anything new that we're preparing and planning to bring into the live environment when it's ready. And obviously the live environment is where we predominantly work from. That's where all our clients are, and all the recording takes place. So we build the things in test and then we bring them into live. The OT assessment that's in the test environment, unfortunately at the moment, because we're actually working on it, we're about to go live with a new version, so I can't show you it in test, but the live version is what you would be using. So I'm going to be demoing that in the live environment. So if you do have a play in test, just be mindful not to test the OT assessment in the test environment. So yeah, but you can with the review. So we'll go through, and then hopefully, any queries we can kind of pick up in terms of, if you want to have a play with various elements, and I'll tell you where to do it. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, can you all see that? Yeah. Okay. I'm in the live environment at the moment, but I am on a test client. So at the moment, I've kind of tried to set it up in a way that would look similar to what you would see on a record for the pieces of work that you're going to be picking up. So on this person, I have added an occupational therapy assessment work list and a review work list, so that would already effectively be on the record for for the people that you're going to be working on. They're already in that review cycle, so you would expect there to be a work list of this sort of nature, with a due date at some point in the future, so that we know that there's a ongoing package, and this person is on our review books, if you like. So I don't know which order you want me to do things in. I mean, should I go through the OT assessment first? Because I'm guessing, is that where you sort of will be kicking things off? So at the moment I've assigned these two work lists. So the owner tells you where that piece of work is sitting. So it's actually against a team rather than a person. It doesn't have my name on it. It has a team name. So what I guess, Sian, you would be doing is, as you're allocating them, you'll be assigning them or reassigning these work lists to the individuals. So if we kind of, I'll just show you how you would do that so that we kind of can see from the beginning. Excuse me. So I'm going to use the occupational therapy assessment, and we go to the action button on the right hand side and choose select, and then we're going to reassign the work list. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm effectively acting as yourself, Sian. I'm going to allocate it to myself, but you would be saying assign to an individual owner, because you want to give it to a person rather than a team, and then you assign to another person, and then you would type their name in, and so as you type one of your users, say Fallon, you'll get the person appear in the box underneath, and you just select their name, and then you can save, and that will reassign that work list to that person, and that will then appear on Fallon's list of users. I'm going to change that obviously for this demo. I'm going to assign it to myself, and I will assign it to myself underneath this team. You probably won't have this option when you assign it to your users, because you only have one team. You're all in one, the Optimal Care Project dashboard
Okay.
and the team. So it just will do it by default. But for me, I have lots of obviously teams that I can allocate my work to. So I'm just going to choose that one. So you can see now the OT assessment is allocated or it's open to myself underneath that team. So that's kind of how you would expect it to look.
Okay.
And similarly, let's just do the same for this one. So I'm going to reassign this to myself under that team. Okay, so both pieces are now with me. So let's go into the occupational therapy assessment work list. So you can either click on the name of the work list itself, or you can click on here and go to view. Does the same thing. Okay. So work lists are, like I was saying before, they're very much linked to the forms, but the work lists are how the work gets driven through the system. So it's what tells the system what to do next. So it's all built in, all the workflow's built in. So depending what you put in your form will then drive what the work list does, and it then meets all the rules and satisfies that to trigger the next pieces of work. So this is what we're looking at now. This is like the series of tasks in the work list. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to do every single one of these, because a lot of these are automatic that kind of go off in the background.
Okay.
But so predominantly it's these two that you're going to be doing. So it's add the form and then you're completing the form, and then the rest is all automatically happening in the background. So I'm going to click on that very first task, add OT assessment form. Once you open up that then gives you this green add form button. So what we're doing is we're adding the OT form as part of the work list. So that's how it's saying it's like very much linked. So you can't necessarily add the form outside of the work list. We want it to be tied together. Okay, so the one thing I will mention is if your pop-ups are blocked when you're using Eclipse, it just might be a little bit more challenging for you, because really what you would expect to see, I'll just repeat this action, sorry. As you go into a work list and then either add the form or click view form, you want it to pop up in a separate window straight away. But if your pop-ups are blocked, that won't happen. So just keep an eye out. God,
browser
are you using?
I think mine and Jason's is Edge.
Okay.
I'm not sure about you, Vivian and Fallon, what your browsers are, but it said to log in. We could only log in with Edge. Is that
you can
right?
use Chrome,
Okay.
but I think it works best with Edge. So
Okay.
yeah, if you do. So with Edge, it's is it this one? It's like this kind of icon, and it'll have, I think, a strike through it in it. If your pop-ups are blocked, you just click on that and then you say always allow, or something like that. Or it's actually, maybe it's a different icon, but just keep an eye out. If that action doesn't happen straight away when you click into the form, there'll be a little icon up here. Click on that, say always allow, and then save it, and then it will open up straight away and into this separate window. Okay. So I'm just going to maximize that. So the very first question in the form is what we call like a kill question. So it's if you need to abandon the process, we no longer want to continue. It's a way of exiting out of it without having to do the whole form. So that's what this question is serving as. Also, it's capturing. So there's a way for us to capture like a reduced version if we're outsourcing. You guys wouldn't be using that option, but and that's for sort of other outsourcing that we do. But if you just say yes if you're continuing as normal, or no if it's abandoned for whatever reason. Okay, so let's go to continue. So it's a dynamic form. So as you're answering questions, it then tells the form what to show after that. So obviously, as I've said, we want to continue. All of these other sections have opened up for us. So I'll just kind of walk you through. I think so, obviously I'm not an OT by background, so this some of these fields will probably make more sense to you guys, but I'm just going to put in information as I go through. So we're going to do an in-person assessment, consent obtained, consent for the report and any action to be shared. So moving and handling risk assessment, if we say yes, that will open up as part of the form as well.
Sorry, Catherine, do you know,
Yeah.
in terms of consent, do we need is this sufficient just to say, yes, the person consented, or is there a separate consent form at all that we need to take out and
Good question. I don't know the answer to that for you guys. So it might be for
Angela.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, and then so choosing your role, OT. This question here, so the assessor it's so that when we produce the output is when you're sharing a copy of the assessment form, as what we spoke about before with the person. Unfortunately, the way that the outputs work, it can't just pull it from the form itself. So if you put in, so for example, start typing my name, I can then search for myself, and then it's an answer in the form that can be pulled out into the output essentially. Okay, so then I'm going to carry on. So each time you come to the bottom of a section, you'll see these three options: save and next, or cancel. So save and next just keeps, moving into the next part of the form, whereas save will just allow you to save what you've done, but then it means you're not editing any particular section of the form, and that enables you to then jump around. Say if you wanted to jump from this is where I am at the moment, but the bit highlighted in black, I'm in the present one, but maybe I wanted to just go straight to risks. Now that I'm no longer editing any section, I can actually click into risks and go to edit there. But as soon as you are editing a section, you have to either save or cancel before you can move on to another section. So if, for example, I was editing this section, but now I want to jump to moving and handling, and I try to click edit in moving and handling, it's going to say you're already editing a section. So I basically need to save or cancel what I was doing in the risk section first. Does that make sense? Yeah. So one way you could do that, a quick way, is you can see up at the top there's a save icon and a cancel icon. So I can either say, oh yeah, save the stuff I was doing in the risk section, or cancel it, and then I'm no longer editing any section. I can jump about now. That is something that does seem to stump people when people first sort of start using Eclipse. So just, yeah. Okay, so let's go back to our present section. Let's click into edit. So this is who is present at the assessment. So you can add as many as you like by using the plus icon to give you extra rows. They're just free text fields, so I can say daughter. Oh, sorry, that's the name. Just daughter, and then put a number there. Let's just do those for now. Okay, and then save and next to go into the next bit. So we've got reason for referral and the name of the referrer. Obviously yours is going to be slightly different and in what you put in there. You will see, so mandatory fields are marked by the asterisks, and then you're also highlighted to them because it gives you this orange triangle when you've got fields that haven't been answered that are mandatory. So you, for some of the fields, you can, so say in this section, because I'm editing it right now, I've already opened it up. If it's a mandatory question that has a radio button, so this is what we mean by radio, where it's got the circle bits that you select. It does mean once you've started editing that section, you do need to answer it in order to move on, because otherwise it will say you've got an unanswered mandatory question.
Okay.
For other types of mandatory questions, so for example, we've got checkboxes, or you might have a free text field that's mandatory. For those ones, you can actually come back to later if you haven't answered them. It's just the radio buttons that kind of
Must
stop
be
you.
done. Okay.
So let's say yes, there's care in place, because obviously for your clients there would be, and yes, there's formal. And then if there are informal carer details, you can add them here as well. So don't know if I've got that. Let's just add a test person. Okay, so current situation. These are all prompts that are in the answer box, if you like. So we do want you to delete them as you sort of filling it out. So really, if you don't need it, you just take the whole lot out and you just describe, as you would. Okay. There's also a prompt here about if the person lives alone. Then we do have that alert in the alerts view for that. I'll just quickly show you. Oops, that's the wrong screen. So if I go back to the person's record, I'm going to flick back to this view. So this is the person information screen. So you can toggle, can't remember if it was mentioned in the generic videos, but you can toggle between this view, the person information screen, and the person summary screen by clicking on the person's name at the top. So it just flicks between the two. So this is the summary screen. If I click again, goes back to the information screen. That's where we capture like the basic details and the qualities kind of things. And it's also where you've got access to the alerts and warnings. So I'm going to go to alerts to show you. So this is the alert for the reduced support network or lives alone. And then you can put in a note in there. But obviously there's lots of different types of alerts that you may want to consider adding, or definitely viewing them before you go to visit. Okay, so let's jump back to our form. Relevant medical history conditions. Again, these are just prompts, so you would take those out and add whatever you need to. This is one of our reporting questions. Does it arise from physical, mental impairment or illness? So once you say yes to that, you've got the areas of need. So you would choose the most predominant one that is leading to the support. So let's say for this person, okay. And then here you've got, I know that image is ridiculously enlarged. Obviously that's just to kind of help guide in terms of the measurements, but you can enter the measurements here. And then you've got height and weight as well. Okay, so now we're in our function section, and again, these are all prompts. I'm not going to sort of, I'm sure you guys are way more familiar with all this kind of stuff than I am. So I'm just going to kind of move on from these. They're just free text fields, so you just write, as much as necessary. That we've got a section on equipment and assistive tech. So this is obviously trying to capture us progressing and considering and exploring assistive technology to support the person. So it's whether there is already assistive tech in place, what are we considering, so let's say, and then you can put in the details that was discussed. Okay, and property tenure, we've got some questions here to capture that.
A quick question, Catherine, sorry.
Yeah.
If obviously we completed an assessment and completed all these documentation forms and whatnot, do they need to get sort of checked over by, would it be Sian or would it be Angela or both?
Maybe initially I'd like to review, but I think ultimately Angela is authorising it on the system.
Yeah,
okay.
So Angela will be, because the occupational therapy assessment isn't a form that requires authorization. So Certainly for the review forms, she will be the authorizer on the system. But I do, yeah, there was a question there for me about, you know, does Angela also need to see the OT assessments? I don't know. That might be something just to check with her.
Yeah.
Because technically they can be completed by anybody. They don't require authorization.
Okay. I think from my end, it's more around like quality, just check,
Yeah.
you know, just a kind of supervisory, making sure if there's anything.
Yeah. So I think what we probably would suggest then is once you've filled out your form and you're happy with it, at the very end, you wouldn't complete it, and I'll talk you through that. You would just be saving it and exiting, and then we can reassign it. So perhaps the process is that you reassign it to Sian to then
Right.
yeah.
To take over. Yeah, lovely. Because I was just going to say, otherwise, obviously, technically we work for OTESA, so it would be more ideal if we could at least have Sian check our work over first before it's sent off to other, you know, places. But yeah, no, it's good to know. Thank you.
So we've got some further details of the property. External layout, internal layout, stairs, kitchen, adaptations. I'm just going to move on through as well. Risks, again, you can delete these as needed. Are you okay with me just flicking through these?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're now in the moving and handling section of the form. Whether there's equipment already in use, and then you can add, you know, details of the equipment. We've got the moving and handling tasks. So you can add multiples of these. So for example, if this first one was, let's say in and out of bed. And then this one was for, say, washing, actually in a shower. And obviously you can add comments as well in these fields here. Is that okay for that section?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got risks. So you detail what the risk is and then the action that's needed. Service users' views and preferences about the above. And again, you can add multiples of these if there's more than one. If you do want to take one away, let's say if you've added too many, you just use the minus to remove a section. Okay, and then we're in the plan, moving and handling, assisting, moving plan. So task, method, equipment, and number of staff carers. If there's any specialist knowledge or skills needed. And if it's been agreed. So there's quite a lot in this section that's not really mandatory. So it's, you know, filling out what's necessary. But I suppose that will be obviously what you'll be picking up on Sian when you kind of are viewing the work. Okay. And then we've got plan and next steps. So the person's view, carer's view, the your opinion and analysis and the agreed plan, whether they've got capacity to agree to the plan. If we do say no to that, then you do have the question of, do we need to do a capacity assessment? So that will trigger a work list, a separate work list for that. So I suppose we might need to just think about what happens when that's triggered. Where does it go to? That probably is another question for Angela. Okay. And then we've got actions and outcomes. So this is where we can say all the things that we've done. So for example, if we've supplied equipment, major adaptations, minor information advice, if we've made any onward referrals. So this is not going to generate anything. This is stuff that happens outside of Eclipse. So that's sort of separate from these options down here. So these are the ones that will trigger a work list. So for example, if we want to refer for major adaptations, that will generate a work list. Another question actually might be about if we do identify major adaptations, what should be the process for that? Because I don't know if it's decided who's picking up that next piece of work.
Oh, okay, yes, I'm not sure. Okay.
And then towards the end, we've got, so the question is, are we continuing with the person or are we closing? So if we say continue, you then will be generating a follow-up work list, which is kind of like, you know, your review or review what we've done. So presumably we would continue.
I think we are following up, yes, because once, I don't know, say we order some equipment, then the idea is we'll go back out to review and make sure everything's hopefully working good.
Yeah. Okay, so continue. And then we've got where, so it's the question that then appears is, when do you want to do a follow-up? So based on saying that we want to do a review, you can then specify. So let's say we want to review in 14 days. So you can use the date picker for these types of fields, for date fields, or you can do like I just did, plus 14 and then tab, and it will just calculate it. Okay. So we are nearly at the end of this form. So it's the contingency plan is it was designed so that we've got one central place where we're, you know, capturing what should happen in an emergency situation, and that will then be able to map through to any subsequent form. So, you know, it's about what's in place if their primary care is no longer around, what arrangements need to be made, who would support the person if like in a longer term basis if their care is not around, things like that. Okay. And then we're in our statutory reporting questions page. So this is obviously the stuff that we have to collect, you know, for client level data. So outcome, let's see what would probably be the most relevant option for you guys. Well, because you're also doing the review, it might be that you are changing the support. So if we're not changing anything, then obviously, you know, no change in package would be the option. But if we are changing,
I'm wondering if it's the unplanned review, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because yeah, I think that would be more appropriate, because that is the next step that you're doing. Okay, so let's choose that one because the others don't seem to be so relevant. And then do any of these follow-up steps also apply? So these are only if they do apply. So again, not mandatory. What's the single main reason for the support? So let's say physical. Obviously you choose as appropriate. What's the main reason? If they've got an unpaid carer. Their employment status and their accommodation status. And we are now at the end of the form because I've clicked on save and next and nothing else has opened up. So, so at this point, if you were happy with the recording and the filling out of the form and you feel like you don't need to come back to it and make any other, changes, usually as a worker you would do exit and complete. But I think what we're saying is we don't want to complete the form, we just want to exit. So I'm not editing any section, it's been saving as you go, because you obviously doing save and next. So just choose exit and then say yes, you want to exit. That will close that window. And if I go back to the work list view, so the work list is how we move work around. So it's not the form that we reassign, it's the work list. So then I presume what we'd want staff to do is to reassign this work list to yourself, Sian. With that,
to do the review.
If you want to have a look at the OT form.
Oh, so there was, yes. Sorry, yeah. I was like, yes, okay.
I suppose the only thing that I'm just thinking is it going to be difficult for you, because you're taking cases as well, aren't you?
I will be, yeah.
How you differentiate between the work you've done and the work that you're checking?
I think, yeah. I'm not too sure. I mean, I know Angela mentioned a spreadsheet that was going to be sent to me or to us. So potentially on there, I could keep a track of which case has been assigned to who, as well as on here as well. But yeah, that is a good point. So I think I have to clarify that with Angela, sort of.
Yeah.
Because it come back to me, as you said, you assign it to me to review. If everything is okay. Yeah. Then it will need to go. Because I was expecting, sorry, Catherine, I was expecting to see that review work list, or is it already there? Because we've already got annual review.
So, yeah, this is the other work list that we'll look at next, which is the review one.
Okay. But we're just talking about the OT assessment form for now. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing to think about is so if staff are reassigning it to you for you to view, who would then complete it? Because if you complete it, it will then be in your name,
my name,
rather than the worker's name. So you probably would want them to complete it.
Yes, we want it to be completed by the worker. Yeah.
Unless you just want to handle it outside of Eclipse, just
potentially, if they've done it, I could review it before they complete it. Before you completed it. Hope that makes sense, Vivian and Fallon. But these are things we could sort of discuss, just confirm the sort of processes outside of this training session now, to make sure that everyone's happy and fully understands sort of the process. But because I should be able, if I was to click onto the client, I should be able to find the OT assessment form and be able to review it outside of assigning it specifically to myself. So that might be a better way.
I think it's probably better to do it that way. Handle it outside of Eclipse. If you've got the spreadsheet, and obviously you'll be in touch, I'm sure, with other means that once the form has been done, they can let you know. You can go in. So you would navigate to the person, and then you can go to forms. And pick up that draft form. So this is it here. You'd see that it's with that person, and then you can. So this icon tells you it's in draft state. So it hasn't been completed yet. You can then go in and view it, open it up, and if you're happy, let them know. They can then complete it.
Yeah, I think that would be the simplest way of doing it without, as you said, go ahead, Fallon.
Yep, sorry. I was just thinking that the only other potential possibility that could be done would be to if it was to come to you to check, and then you was to submit it, maybe you could put like a sentence blurb at the bottom just to say checked on behalf of OT Fallon or OT Vivian, or I don't know, so you can still show that the original person that filled in the completed the form would be XYZ, and if anything else it just shows that it's been through quality control anyway, doesn't it? That way it's just an option, it's just a potential variable, just as a consideration, I guess.
I'd propose that instead of doing that, if you want to do a case note to document that you've viewed the form and you're happy with it, because then at least it's in I think case notes is probably more where people would check to see things like that, like kind of chronology. Whereas if you put it in the form, there isn't a dedicated space for that, and it might get lost just in the body of the assessment.
Yeah, I think you guys, what we've said, so you guys still have the form, and then I would go in this way via forms just to review it, and we've put a case note to say it's been reviewed, and then you can complete it. Because I think, I agree with what Catherine said. It might be challenging to find out, kind of because it's quite a large form with lots of information. So, and also if someone just wants to quickly view that actually there's been a quality check, or then I think case notes is the best, maybe the easiest place to review what's happened on a case. So
that's like the place where most people are going to likely look. So it's probably a good place to have it. And you'd see, the information has glanced very, very quickly in that view. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else to cover? Actually, I will just show you what happens when you do complete it. So when the worker gets the feedback that they can complete, you would be picking up the work list again and going into the form. So you can either go in to the form via the work list, as I've just done now, and open up that task and click on view form, or you can navigate. Now that I've added the form, it's on the person's record. I can just open it from here and view the draft form from this way. So if I'm now wanting to complete the form and mark it as completed on the system so that it can't be edited, you would choose the exit and complete button and then say, yes, I do want to complete. One thing to note, though, is when you are completing a form, there's a little thing with Eclipse that if you navigate away from this forms page whilst you've got your form open, it won't actually complete the form when you tell it to. So, for example, if I had moved away, navigated to case notes, I've still got my form open, and I say, oh yeah, I want to complete the form, it won't actually complete it. For some reason, you have to be on this page on forms for it to push through. So you can see it's still in a draft state at the moment. So if I go back in, I'm on the forms view now. I'll do exit and complete and say yes. You get this pop up again saying, yes, I do want to complete. And then that will change the status. It's gone all the way down because I've got too many things open on this record. I just take that off. There we go. So you can see now it's changed to a orange tick because it's complete. It's like a locked record. So yeah, just be mindful if you are flicking around on the main page of Eclipse, just to be on the forms page when you come to complete the form. So if we go to work list now, let's just have a little look and see what's happened on the record, because so the work list has moved on to the next piece and it's generated other pieces of work. So because I had said refer for major adaptations, that is one of the work lists that has been triggered. So the OT major adaptations work list has opened up, and also we've got our follow-up work list, which has opened with a due date of plus 14 days because I asked for that as well. Both of these have been assigned to me because I've created them, so it's automatically assigned them to me. But obviously, I think we might need to check with Angela about what happens with these ones. Where should they go? So once we know that, it might be a case of reassigning. But yeah, so by default, they will trigger to the person who has created them. Okay. Any questions on the OT form, Jason?
Yeah, I was thinking. Sorry, you could create different types of work lists, right?
Yes, but it is automatic. So it's what was your?
Because what I was thinking, with the scenario we were talking about just now of when the OT needs CN to review the work.
Yep.
Could we potentially, I mean, not us, but I think it'll be on your side, right? But you could potentially create like a review work list that when the OT completes it, it then goes into that review work list for CN to review. Is that possible? Or?
In theory, yes, but it's just that practicality wise, we're just not in a position to change the existing workflow just for this project. I think it might be if it became a more long-term thing, then I think that might be something we would look at. But yeah, I think for now we'll just have to work with what we've got.
Yes, no problem. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think then in terms of the OT side, that that's kind of it. We'll move now into the review side of things. Could we just take a quick comfort break before we do that? Can we say what time have we got to actually?
I think 12.
Only got till 12. Oh, 12:30 I have. Is that?
Is it 12? So yeah, I think it's 12:30.
Okay. All right. Should we come back just before half past then, or just let's say half past? Yeah, and then we'll move on to the next bit.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, Catherine.
Yeah.
With case notes, can you like at somebody or like get the attention of somebody? I was just thinking if just like how we were saying for Cian to use the case notes or the
Yeah.
OT use the case notes, can you like I don't know like assign
Notify.
or like yeah
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't a surefire way of doing it. They've somewhat designed it in that way that if we use the notification settings, but the problem with it is that it doesn't persist. It's not a persisting notification. So it will. So, for example, if the person is logged in at the system at the time when you send it, they'll get a notification. But if they log out before they've looked at it, it then doesn't stay there when they next log back in. So it's not a reliable method of communicating, unfortunately. So that's where we then designed the follow-up message work list that Jack walks through. So you could use that to sort of it's almost like a messaging system that we've tried to create ourselves. So you could use that as a means of communicating internally inside the system.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those little
yeah. I'm just trying to think though, how would Cian know without manually having to go in and check, each one that's still in the draft state is ready for review?
I think
if there's any way as and when she could be notified when the OT says like it's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to tell Cian that there's something for her to look at, it would have to be either a message follow up or something outside of Eclipse. Yeah.
No problem. We'll figure it out on our side. No problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are we all back?
Hello, I just have a question,
Yeah.
please. This project is mostly moving and handling, I think, if I'm correct. So, the adaptation, the major adaptations, would we still be needing that? I know once in a while you might see a case that you might need to.
Yeah, I'm going to check with Angela because I think it depends on sort of for the ceiling track hoist process, whether that needs to. I think I did speak to her and she did say it goes via the adaptation OT team. She's speaking with their manager about a way, so it might be for the purposes of a ceiling track hoist, we might have to complete it. I don't know, but I can clarify that. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I doubt unless it's really something related to single-handed care or optimizing their care package that we will be needing to complete major adaptation requests other than ceiling track hoists potentially, but I can clarify that point for you with Angela.
Yeah, and another thing is, in the OT assessment form, do we need to select what we need to complete because there are some of the areas that are not relevant to this project?
Moving in hand, I think my understanding is that we're completing as much information that is relevant. I think the good thing with the form is that you've got the prompts, but it's not necessarily everything you have to include in it. So I think it would be kind of your judgment.
Adaptation. Why I'm asking this is whether they have a separate moving and handling assessment form, or is it just that one she showed us?
So we do have a version of it that's standalone. So you could do it separate, but I think I haven't been involved in all the conversations for this project, but just from what I was told, it was the OT assessment as well as the moving and handling plan. So you can either do that as standalone or you can do it as part of the OT assessment form as we've looked at. I mean, as you've got the OT form open, it kind of makes sense to just do it as part of the same form. But yeah, I don't know. Is that another question for Angela?
To clarify that, because if not, there will be a lot of repetition.
No, I wouldn't agree because I think with the moving and handling form, that's more around where you select a task and then you know, you're specific around it, whereas the other bit of the form to me is like where you're capturing
everything.
I don't know, everything else.
Okay.
So housing, who they live with, I think, you know, medical information. So I think if you were just doing the moving and handling form, it would be quite reductive without the rest of the information. I think you do need the rest of the information as well as the moving and handling part. But that's obviously, I think, as we go along, but we can check with Angela about, is it okay just to do just the moving and handling form, or is the expectation? But my understanding is the expectation is we're doing that whole form because...
So the 2 forms then?
Well, yeah.
If we're going to be doing the 2 forms, I think it'd be nice for us to also see how that, you know, works.
How it's completed.
Yeah, how it's completed, what it looks like, whether it's, you know, is, you know, whether it captures all the things that we might need for this project, or
And well, yeah, I mean, I know you currently work on a sort of single-handed care or similar project, Vivian. So is it just you complete a standalone moving and handling form?
So they have similar 2 different forms, like occupational therapy form that captures everything, but what happens is, I don't know how the form with Enfield looks like, but their form resulted to a lot of repetition. So you just open 2 form and be doing copy and paste, and you're repeating the same thing. And the truth is that when you send that out to the client or even people to do, it's like you're saying the same thing over and over again. So that's why I'm just trying to clear. So we got to a point where in the main form, we'll just put like the relevant information, like the health of the, you know, the medical history, a little brief summary of, you know, what happened. Then where there is OT analysis, because you're going to still do the moving and handling, because that's where you need to detailed, you know, what happens, the transfers, and have that narrative around why you think the person needs one care and why you think that, you know, that's where you kind of put that clinical reasoning, you know, in a very narrative form. So what happened was that they now came to a suggestion that in the main OT assessment, we should just put, please refer to OT moving and handling for details on this particular transfer. Do you get? So when you now get to the moving and handling, that's where we now do the detailed information. So that's how, because if not, I think it would be too much paperwork and repetition, but I don't know how their moving and handling is until we see that.
So I will just quickly say, because I am conscious of time, we've got still a fair bit to cover before 12:30. But because obviously you are doing the review and the OT form, I think, I mean, in a normal situation, you wouldn't be doing both. And so it may be that there is some overlap and it's going to feel a little bit like duplication. So, I mean, the question has been raised about, you know, for these types of pieces of work, should there be another type of form that can capture the OT element as well as the review element, but we're just not in that place at the moment, and so unfortunately we're just running with what we've got, and it's the 2 workflows that are running side by side, the review and the OT form. And yeah, like I said, there probably will be some bits that are going to overlap, but
we've got the temporary, not temporary, we've got the test logons. So again, that's for us to be able to play and then see, actually, is it as you say, is it duplicating, or so we can kind of use it, test it out first, and then can discuss it with Angela.
And so just to remind you that in the test environment, don't use the OT form, because it will be a totally different version of the form that you're using, but you can test the review form in the test site. So and I think that's probably going to be maybe where you might feel like you need a bit more practice, just because of the nature of it. I mean, we're going to go through it now, but yeah, just it's slightly more complicated. Is Fallon, are you with us?
Let me...
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay. All right, that's all right. All right, let's jump in then with the review. So you may see the review work list appear as a holding work list, but you also may just see review. It just depends what stage it's at in terms of, you know, that where they're at in their review cycle. What happens is when we generate the annual review, it goes in a holding work list state, so that when that time comes up, when it's, you know, say normally September 26, when it's due, we then trigger the review, the actual review worklist that you're working from. We trigger it there and then, so it's the most up-to-date, relevant, current worklist that you're working on, and it contains the most recent form. Essentially, is what we're trying to do, because we're continuously changing and making amendments and improvements to forms and worklists. So you always want to be triggering the latest version of it. So if it's in a holding worklist state, effectively what you would do is go into the work list, and it's just to say trigger the next work list now. You want to trigger the review work list now, so you just complete this task to confirm that a review is needed, and then that will force the most relevant but most current version of the review work list on the record. So if I go back to work list now, this is the work list that you'll actually be recording the review from, so it just looks like that. And I can now go into that work list and open up the review form. So there are a couple of tasks that will just happen before you add the form, and it's just it will only show if it's relevant. So if the person's got a direct payment, this is one of the tasks that will crop up, so that we can check if there's any outstanding debt and things like that. If that doesn't show, you would just go straight to your add form button. But I'm just going to complete this task just to say, we've checked that, we've contacted the finance team. So let's now go into our draft review form and add that form. So we have subtypes for the review, so that when you're in the forms view in Eclipse, you see the history of all the forms, it's a bit clearer what type of review it is. And we also have an option that captures if we are not progressing with it. So for example, the kill question we talked about in the OT form, if you get to this point where actually maybe the person's died, and we want to end the process, you would be choosing the exit question option here in your pick list. I'll continue as normal, and then I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. So let's say we're doing an unscheduled review, and then choosing accept will then open up your form in a new window. So again, obviously making sure that your pop-ups are not blocked, and it will open up the form separately. Okay, so this is that kill question again that we talked about before. We do have a couple of extra options in this form, because it was agreed that you may, even though we're not progressing with the review as normal, we might want to collect some parts, or maybe nothing at all. It just depends on the type, whether we started the review and then it stopped, or it started way before it stopped. So depending on what you choose shows various levels of follow-on questions. If we say it was stopped before, we don't want to capture anything, we just capture why. So maybe the person died, if we need to close services, things like that. But if we're progressing as normal, I'm just going to cancel that and do that again. If we're progressing as normal, you just say continue as normal, so you can open up the review form as normal. Okay, so we've got some questions on capacity. This is our into capacity section. So if they've got consent to the review, capacity to consent to the review, if there is a family rep or advocate present, who is present, and how they are providing support. And then we've got the question around if they've got, these are the questions that set the criteria as to whether we need to do a mental capacity assessment. So again, there's a bit of overlap with the OT form and then this form. So you might want to think about if say a mental capacity assessment is required, you don't want to trigger it from both places. So you might want to say no to one and yes to the other. So let's say yes, yes, and yes. So so now this is a good question, because so this is about which team is involved. Now obviously you're external, so which do we know? I wonder if we might want to put review team for this one.
Which team's involved?
We'll check with Angela, but let's have that as a query with Angela. But
yeah,
I think probably review team is going to be, we're just not in a position to add options in it, because this maps through to subsequent forms, and if we make any changes, it breaks the mapping across all of the forms. So it sounds like it should be a really simple task just to add in an option, but it's not. So I think we'll have to choose review team, but we'll double check it with Angela.
Yeah.
The date of
again, I guess if we're making a change or recommending a change, we'd put that at the end of the OT assessment form.
So it's the review that actually instigates any changes to the package. So if we're wanting to make a reduction, it's this form that would actually progress that. So I know this is the form that obviously will be authorised by Angela. So once she authorises it, that will then, depending on what the change is, it will either go to operational support to change the package in our sort of payment section, or go to brokerage if it needs to be, if there's a change to commissioning, essentially.
Okay. Yeah. I bet it's a question for Angela. Definitely. Yeah.
So you've got your date of review, whether this was planned or unplanned. So I think as we are bringing the review forwards, I think we'd be saying it's an unplanned review, because it's technically an unscheduled. And then what was the significant event that caused the unplanned review? I would choose other, and then you can just note in there about the project.
Care project.
Yeah. Okay, so we're doing face-to-face. We're recording it for service user support. Some of these questions will map through. So this, you can see here that some have already been answered. So, if there has been a previous review, it will map through into this form. So some of the questions will already be answered. You can, of course, update them in this form if you determine, it's not correct. So you would just check all of these, so like accommodation status, employment status, and then these things. So you just, if they're already answered, just check that they're still current. These are our client level data questions that we have to capture. Okay, so there's just a prompt around warnings. So it's just, if there is a warning on the record, do we need to consider that? Do we need to review it? Has it ended? Maybe it's no longer relevant. It's just a prompt really for that. And similarly with the safeguarding, it's if there has been any safeguarding raised or inquiries completed since that last review. So it's just a kind of a prompt. If we say yes, then it's there's a free text box that appears about what needs to be considered as part of this review. Okay, so these are the areas, not quite areas of need, but these are key areas that we capture in our review. So you've got like a free text for conversation discussion, where you can put like the story, physical health, mental health, behaviours that challenge how I spend my week, money, and risks. So yeah, as we said, there may be some overlap between these and your OT form. So we've got the areas of need here. There may be multiple selected. Again, that will map through from the previous form. And then so will the detail. So I know this just text jargon that I've just plugged in, but there will be the historical information from the last review that will map through, and you can then update it. As we're in the review as well, we then get the option to say, is this outcome being met? So, you know, depending on the circumstance, we might say the care that's in place is meeting the need, or we might say it's only partially being met, or if it's a brand new outcome that you've identified, you can tick. So say if I wanted to add, you know, work as one, then we'll get the section for work appear down here, and I would then say this is actually a new one, so we're not reviewing it because we've only just identified it, we're adding it. Okay, so I just need to answer these radio buttons. We've got met, let's say that's met, not met. And then you've got your overall effect on the well-being. So obviously it needs to be significant for them to be eligible. And then you've got the rationale so that you can describe in there the impact on their well-being. Okay. We also have the assistive tech section in this form. So again, that is going to be like an overlap with your form. Okay. So we're now in the formal services section of the form, and this is the bit that details the existing support, the formal support that's in place for the person. And this is what would then drive, you know, if we need to make any changes, it will come from here. So it would also, because this is a test record, there isn't like some sort of good history in this record, but this would be selected already if they're in a review cycle. So for example, let's say that they're already receiving a commissioned package of care. Let's just move on to what I'm going to quickly do is just mock it up so it looks a bit more like what you would see when you're coming to do a review. So what we have is this table here, which is kind of like a timetable sort of view of the support. So let's say right, what I'm going to do is just save this as a section so that what happens is it collapses it down when you've saved it. When you're editing, it's a much sort of bigger view. Definitely would say for when you come to this section of the form, you want to make it as big as possible, like widescreen as you can, because there are lots of columns in the table and it becomes quite difficult to sort of see what you're looking at. If you're working on a small screen, if you've got access to a bigger screen, it's much better to put it on that one, and maximize the window for sure. So when you've saved it, like I said, it kind of collapses it down. It's a bit easier to get that sort of high level view of it. So what I've just plugged in there is a bit of an example as to what you might see. So I've set it up so that you've got a morning call of 60 minutes every day, and that's, you know, every day of the week. It's a double-handed call, and it covers, you know, these areas of need, and it was, you know, started a while ago. Then we've got a 30-minute call in the morning, which is only single-handed, that one. And then we've got an evening call, which is 60 minutes and single-handed as well. So that's how you sort of would see the sort of, the calls, the existing calls. If you need to make changes to the package, you would be doing it from this table view. So the status is what we will use to drive in Eclipse what happens next. So if we're not changing anything, we would leave it as a no change in our status. If we want to change it, then we need to change that status. So the options that we have are new, change or end, and then you've got your no change. So the new is if you were, say you identify that maybe the support was not enough, you'd be adding a new line. You would use the new option. If you wanted to change, so let's say, for example, we've identified that actually this call is now single-handed rather than double-handed. I would be putting that as a change, and we'd change that to single. So now when I save that section, just, oh yeah, because I've put change, it's then brought up another question. So depending on what it is you're changing determines where it's going. So if we want to change the provider, that goes to brokerage. If we're not changing provider, we're just changing the time, then it just goes to operational support for them to load the change to the package. So in this instance, I'm going to say no. And now I can save that section. That was one of those mandatory radio button questions that stopped me from being able to save that section. So now we've got a single-handed call of 60 minutes that we're changing. And maybe we're leaving the rest as no change. Just check the options again. I can see, so if, yeah, let's say actually maybe we want to end the single-handed call that was 30 minutes. So let's change that to end. So we've got a change, an end, and a no change. Let's just do a new as well, just so you can see what that looks like. So I did forget to put agents in there. This would have mapped through from the previous form, so it would actually have the provider name because obviously it's already been commissioned previously. So let's say we're adding an afternoon call of 30 minutes every day. And then because it's a new one, I'm going to put today's date and we're doing new. Okay, so now if I save that, we've got 4 lines in the table. So we're changing the what was a 60-minute call, but which was double-handed. We're now changing that to single. We are ending the single-handed 30-minute call in the morning. We're not changing the evening call, and we're adding an afternoon call for 30 minutes. You do also have this notes column, which you can add specifics into, which is quite helpful, especially if you're making a change. You want to kind of direct that, you know, the person who's going to receive this, you want it to be as clear as possible as to what change you're recommending and asking for. So for example, I might put in here, let's just go back into edit. I might say as part of, you know, optimal care review / OT assessment, establish that double-handed element no longer required. That you would probably word this much better than I am. So reducing double-handed to single, and ending 30-minute call in the AM. So if I just save that, that will appear here, so it's really clear for whoever's picking it up, you know, what's actually changing to the package. So because of the status changes I've put in here, that then tells Eclipse what to do next. When it's authorized, that's when it then, you know, moves on to the next action. But what it does do in the form is it gives you an indication as what is going to happen once the form is complete. So these banners, the colored banners, tell you that. And it's based on the status. So where we've said no change, obviously we've left one of them as no change. That gives you this red banner, which tells you no work list is going to be generated. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to tell the form that if you're doing more than one type, you know, to hide the red banner, because obviously we are also sending it to op support and we're sending it to brokerage. So effectively, if you've got these two as well as that, you can ignore the red one because it will generate something. But as long as you're seeing, you know, a brokerage work list or an op support work list banner, you know, then you know it's happening as it should. So then the new one is what would go to brokerage to commission, and the change is what is going to go to operational support, sorry, to close the package, because they're the ones that handle the loading. So you would be liaising with the provider if there's a change to the package, but in terms of like the you know, matching the service package to the invoice, that's what operational support do. They're the ones that update the package side of things. So in fact, it's actually the end and the change that would go through to operational support, and they would actually affect that change on the system. Is all of that making sense? Because I realise there's a lot there.
It does.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. Vivian and Fallon, do say if it's not making any sense. This kind of reminds me on Liquid Logic, where you had to put things like, I think it's familiar to me, this type of form, but I think at the time we used to use it for equipment, to say this person has this equipment. And I have seen with their care calls as well, but there used to be the cost figure that we had to do or something. So it is a familiar documentation. So I don't know what you think, Vivian and Fallon. Any comments on it?
So you just a question. So when there is a change, is that when we do this part of this form, or when we have to do it irrespective?
So you would be doing it irrespective, because you're reviewing the package, and you're either establishing if it's a no change or if there is a change.
Okay. So irrespective, you have to do it. Okay.
Yeah, if there's no change. Yeah.
But what of the cost calculation? Is it them that would then do the amount of money and then let us know? How do we now know the actual pounds that was sent?
So say
for this particular case.
Okay.
That might be where we want to draw Angela in. I can see Angela's rejoined the call.
I have.
Hi.
Hey, how's everyone going?
Yeah, good. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
We were just saying, how do we sort of map the cost saving, I guess, not the cost, or the costs overall with the project? Would it be done
That's
in
a really
here,
good question. I do plan to meet with one of the review managers, because it's a different team, because this is reviews that we're picking up. But I'm going to bring you into that meeting as well, Sian, just to really understand how they complete this.
Okay.
I will say that for the majority of support, it's so that we have obviously an hourly rate that is used for the package, for the support, which is £20.20.
Okay.
So you can, you know, there should be a rough calculation as to, you know, we should know what the existing package is and amounts to. That should be the cost that's already in that field there. Obviously I'm using a test client, so there's nothing in there, but you'd have an amount in there. You'd then be able to say, okay, I've reduced it to this many hours a week, which equates to this much money, and you know, roughly work out what the new cost would be, and you would ideally put that in that field there, so you'd be updating the figure, and then, you know, operational support, once they receive it, they can also check it and update it as needed.
Okay.
Catherine, so is that what the social workers are doing? They do a calculation, because I thought it was just the hours, but they have to add in the costs as well.
They should be doing that. They don't always, but yeah. I mean, it's when we're working off an hourly rate, it's a pretty standard calculation to do. If you know how many hours we're providing a week, you just multiply it by the £20.20. But because it's only if we're, you know, doing placement or other things that it's, you know, it's a figure outside of that. It's not standard
so
rate.
In every case it is £20.20.
If it's a commission package of care or a direct payment, then yes, it would be those. It might be worth just double checking that I'm not giving the wrong information just when you meet with your review team. But yeah, that's as far as what I understand. It's we should be using the hourly rate.
So if somebody is double-handed, like that would be double.
Yeah,
double
that's right.
£20.
Yeah,
isn't it? Then if somebody is 45 minutes,
then we have to calculate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, the calculation
20
part
divided by 4.
Yeah,
we use our math skills.
It's 20, so it's easy, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's a little bit more of a rounded figure than what we had before, so I think it can get a little bit confusing, especially in the timetable review, when you've got part elements of it that are double-handed and part elements that are single-handed.
Exactly.
So I think just be mindful when you're calculating it, what's the total number of hours that we are paying for is obviously what, and it's not necessarily what the service user is receiving in terms of call time, because if there are 2 carers, then it's going to be double the hours in terms of money, but not for the service user.
That's why I think this is my own opinion, it might be wrong, but I would, sorry, 1 minute. Sorry, I need my son to help with opening doors. I think the finance team need to be involved in terms of calculating the amount that we've saved. Wow, I don't know.
So I think that's what Angela said. We will have a meeting with the review team just to, I guess, find out, what the expectation is.
Yeah,
or
because I would have
monitoring.
preferred that.
But
we know the
in terms of
amount.
Overall, Vivian, in terms of overall savings, yes, definitely we'll include the finance team. But for the individual that we're talking about right now, I'm just going to check with the review manager just to find out what is the current practice.
Yeah, because what I've noticed in the previous moving and handling that I've done is that some tricky situations where you might have to save morning and reduce it to 45 minutes, but single-handed.
Yes.
Then you then have to reduce the double-handed lunch and tea time to single-handed, then the dinner do the same. So what we usually do is just say the hours that we've been able to save, not then do the how much. To get the accuracy, the finance team, all we need to say is that this client used to have 5.5 hours a day, but we've reduced it by 3 hours a day, and we'll put those values. I think
if we've got all of that data, I think there is a way to work it out, like even if it's, as you said, hours saved versus sort of weekly cost saved, or I think there would be a way to work it out, and particularly if we are working with that figure of £20 20p. So I wouldn't worry about it. And also in terms of kind of our, I guess, oversight, that would be, I guess, Jason and my sort of role to kind of really dig into and make sure those calculations are correct in terms of that oversight about cost savings. So and if you have any difficulties with it, then just let us know and we could assist with it, as long as you put the the information around single or double or change or no change. I'm sure between Jason and I we could figure it out.
Okay.
And Fallon, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, sorry. So with regard local authority that I'm sort of with at the moment, what we tend to do is we pretty much do that. We put down a breakdown of how many, like the details of, I don't know, 15 minutes shaved off here, the half an hour added on there and whatnot. And then we just put a ballpark figure at the bottom and say ultimately this is all the big total. So we just put a grand total down. And then only in the actual care package bit do we put like the tweaks and the details that's been changed. So it's pretty similar, really. But yeah, but as I say, you've since said that you're going to be checking anyway. So that's, I think, once we get the hang of it and we've done a few, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. You do have the notes section in this section of the form, if at the bottom, where you can put a bit more about, you know, what you've identified and what you're changing. The notes field in the column is more if you wanted to make a comment that's particular to a part of the call, effectively. So, you know, if you wanted to make a note that was only relevant to the morning call or the afternoon call, whatever, you could use those notes to sort of be a bit more specific. But as a general sort of summary, you've got this notes field at the bottom as well. Okay. Right, so I will continue onwards. Now, if Angela, this is, I suppose, a good question for you. So I'm guessing that the cases that have been identified, obviously they're only going to have either a directly commissioned package care or a DP, or is a DP not included in this?
I believe they're care packages only, not DPs.
Okay, all right, that's great. So I can actually just show you this section, because the others are not really going to be relevant. Obviously you're not getting involved with placements or anything like that, so it's just this section really that you're going to be working with.
Catherine, sorry, let me just check with you. If it is a DP, is there a difference in terms of what needs to be completed?
Yes, there is a different section.
Okay. I'm going to have to go through them all. I think they were all care agencies.
Okay. Might be worth then, if we leave it as this for the moment, if we think the majority is at least directly commissioned, and then maybe, Angela, once you've checked, if we need to do a further like mini session, we can cover the DP recording in a separate, because I'm also conscious that we covered quite a lot in, you know, short space, and don't want to overload. Okay. All right, so we'll carry on down the form then. So there is a section to record the indicative budget. So there have been some sort of changes that are going to be made to this section, which obviously is not in live at the moment, but ideally this would cover like the total budget that we've identified the person is going to have. So whatever the overall cost is of supporting the person, that would be included in this section here. Again, it will map through from the previous form, and you just update it as you need to. Contributions, there's a section here for that. If you need some support in filling this out, I suppose, do you have you been given contact details for the financial assessment team?
No, I don't think so, not yet.
Might be worth having that as well. I do have a phone number I can share with you, so I'll grab that.
Catherine, who is the financial assessment team? So would that be Liz, or is that who would that be?
So it's Claire Sparks's team, financial assessment.
Oh, and Andrew. Okay.
Andrew.
Okay. Which Andrew from finance?
Oh, I don't know an Andrew. I just know Claire. Her deputy is, oh gosh, I can't remember now, but I'll find out I'll provide the number anyway, so you've got a
okay, that's brilliant. Thanks.
Let's just move into so contingency plan. We did cover it in the OT form, so again there is that overlap between the two forms, but if you I mean, just in terms of where there is a bit duplication, if you were to be filling out the OT form first, let's say, and that was completed in the system first, then it would at least map through into the review form if you haven't already generated the review form. So that's just something to bear in mind in terms of the order that you're doing things in. If you want to reduce the duplication, you might want to consider
only
completing
generate
the
it once you've done the OT form, rather than generating both of them without
at the same time
information. Okay.
So that's just something to bear in mind. So I'm going to skip through this part because we covered it before. And then you're in your summary section. So, you can obviously capture the service users' views, the recommendations, further actions. And then what we choose in here is what tells Eclipse what to do next. So you would only choose no further action if, we're closing this, like say if we're ending services or they've passed away, whatever. We're going to be saying we're providing further action from social care. By default, because we're in the review cycle, the review option is ticked because obviously we need to set them up for the next review, whether that's a year's time. There are other options, so I think we probably wouldn't be selecting the other ones, but if we identified that a reassessment was needed, then we could choose that as an option. If we needed to tell finance about a change, this actually probably is worth covering because you may need to do this. So the financial assessment team is the team that we've just sort of talked about, who are responsible for doing the financial assessments and identifying the contribution amounts for people's care, and that's Claire's team, Claire Sparks. So the way we work in Enfield now is that we work off the basis that we get the agreement to financial assessment as early as possible in the process, in the person's social care journey. We should only need to get it once. So we get the authorization or the agreement to do a financial assessment once, and then that lasts for the period of their social care journey with us. And that means even if they change, so even though we assess slightly differently from a non-residential to a residential placement, they're two different policies. If it changes, if they're going from non-res to res, we can still take their initial agreement to do the new assessment, but we do still need to tell finance if there is a change. So that is where you might be using this option here if there's an update that's required. So if you choose that option, you do have some further questions that appear below, and we do have some guidance that's in this blue box. Now the guidance in the form, the blue, like these colored banners and things, don't often get read, but they are really useful to read if you please try to read them, because this will actually guide you in when you need to choose it, when you need to select that option. For example, it says to choose the update option if there are changes such as these, such as someone has passed away, like a part of the couple has passed away, or there's a change in household composition, or there's a change in income or benefits, or things like that. So if any of those changes are there, then we do need to choose this option here for updating finance. And then underneath we can say we don't need to do a new financial assessment, but we do need to tell finance about a change. And then there's some other ones, some following questions about what is the change. So if they are, for your cases, they're all going to be a non-residential case. Perhaps let's imagine that in this scenario, there's been a change in benefits. We need to tell finance about. So we would choose the option here, change of circumstance, which requires a financial review, non-residential. No, I don't actually think you'd be choosing any other ones. I was going to say you might choose change of policy, but actually that would only apply if they were going from non-res to res, and you're not, the cases that you're dealing with are not going to be doing that. So this would be the only scenario I would expect you to really be using. And then you can detail in this box here. So let's say change in benefits, please review contribution. You might put a bit more detail in there, but that's effectively what you need to tell finance is that's changed for them to pick up and do the financial review. Is all of that okay in terms of the finance?
So it's not necessarily a change in that we're changing the package of care, it's a change in the client's circumstance.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so or say face-to-face? Are they suitable for self-review? Most of these are going to be no anyway, but we do have the option as a self-review. And then because we've said this is a planned review, we can then choose what's happening next. So whether we're going to be reviewing in a shorter time frame, but typically, we're setting it for the next annual review, and then that tells the system to generate it for a review with a due date next year. Okay, so I think I'm at the end of the form now. Yeah,
I'm just going to call him Mel, just so she can say hi to the team as well.
Okay. That's actually the end of the form now anyway. So the final option would be to get this form submitted for authorization. So this is one of the forms that does require the authorization, and I know obviously Angela is identified as being the authorizer of these forms. So when you're happy with the review needing to be signed off, you would then be choosing the exit and submit button, which puts it in a submit state for Angela to then go in and authorize. I'll just pause there because I think Mel's joining.
Thanks, Mel, for joining the call. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
That's good. Are you able to put your camera on at all? Thank you very much. All right, so we've got the team with us. The contractors that I was talking to you about, who are going to be doing the moving and handling assessments as well as the reviews. There was a question that came up, but it would be nice, a bit of an introduction with everybody, just so that you know who's who. Sian, do you want to start?
Yeah, hi Melanie, my name's Sian Ali. I'm an occupational therapist and founder of 12.OTESA, so we're the company that's going to be doing the project.
Jason.
Hi Melanie, I'm Jason Ali. I'm also a co-founder of 12.OTESA, and I sort the operational technical side for the OTs.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Vivian.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Vivian, and I am an occupational therapist and also an associate OT for 12.OTESA.
Thank you. Fallon.
Hello there. Yes, my name's Fallon, and I'm joined the 12.OTESA team as well as an occupational therapist. Yeah.
Thanks. And last but not least, Mel.
Thank you. I'm Mel Gibson. I'm team manager in the review team. Sorry, I wasn't aware this meeting was taking place this morning, so I'm not late. You just called me.
No, you're not late.
Yeah. Can I just say, so the actual company is called 12.OTESA, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
One of the questions that came up is just in terms of completing the form. When the social workers are completing the form, do they do hours as well as doing the financial calculations on the form? Catherine kindly was going through it in detail and talking about what best practice is. And I just want to check what your expectations are of your team when it comes to completing that form.
Well, we have to follow what's on the form. There's been just as Catherine's just put up, so it needs to be done like that, because basically that's what's expected of us now by operational support. I think there was problems in the past where because people weren't as clear as they needed to be in terms of for them to be able to load. So that's why this has now been set up like that.
Yeah, so what I was just showing the guys in the training session is as they are filling out this part of the form, usually it would map through, from the previous review, and they would be calculating based on the hourly rate of £20, 20 pence. They would be calculating what the new cost of support is if any changes are being made, multiplying up the number of hours of support with the 20 hours, £20, 20 pence. And arriving at the figure as to what the new weekly cost would be.
It should also be highlighted though if it's somebody at home and they're not using a care agency, then it's at the lower figure of 1911. Because many of these double-handed cares are going to be people at home. There are one or two people, as I understand it, that may have a PA rather than a care agency going in. And on that, the rate is lower.
Sorry, could you say the rate again, please? You said £19.
19, is it 11? I'm thinking myself. 1911 if it's a PA, and it's 2020 if it's a care agency.
Oh, right. So sorry, Mel, just to check, that's so for DP, not all elements of the DP are £20.20. Is that right then?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
If it's a PA, we only had the uplift to 2020 for care agencies.
Okay. Angela was going to double check that whether we have any DP clients involved in this project, because we're not 100% sure at the moment. It may just be directly commissioned support, but that's good to know for the figure.
So you can look into that, Angela, in terms of what care packages people are receiving.
Yeah, because from the spreadsheet, it looks like the majority of them are care packages, but I am going to have a look into it in a bit more detail after this call.
Okay.
Sorry, can I ask a question? So, so this project also captured people that are self-funded?
So I'm leaving that to Angela to answer, because I haven't gone through all the names on the list yet.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's going to be a combination, Vivian.
Okay.
But in terms of the calculation, that shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking for some clients that might have a mixture of, some people might be double-handed, one being provided by the PA and the other one being provided by the local authority.
I'm hoping the ones we've selected is not that complicated. I'm hoping so. But
okay, but just bear that in mind.
We can discuss if they come up.
Yeah, because there are one or two clients that have got that scenario, but I don't know about the list.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Once we know the situation with the cases, if we do need to do a separate session on how we record the DP side and the PA, we'll obviously do that in a separate session, just to make it really clear.
It does sound, because everyone used to be at the same rate, just so that the people who aren't part of everyone was at the same rate. It was in April that it was decided that if you're a care agency, it's 2020, and if you're a PA, it remains at the old level. And that has complicated the situation a little bit. But I've got another meeting this afternoon with Luciana regarding this project, so I was going to be looking at that list. So I'll take a quick look as well, Angela, in terms of who's on it.
Brilliant. Yeah, Luciana's invited me to that meeting as well. Okay, all right. But I am going to schedule another meeting with Sian and yourself and Jason, if you're available to come, just so that we can go through authorization process and expectations just there. Okay, I'll touch base with you again, Mel.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Mel while she's on the call?
So this, specifically about the review form.
Yeah.
I think the main concern was main question was around how we complete it, whether we have the calculations sort of process.
Yes.
So you're all clear on how this part, the formal services section, needs to be completed?
I guess I had another question. Obviously, we complete the form, but we would have to be in agreement with the client, care agency, and maybe a social worker in terms of, obviously we make our recommendations, but in terms of actually physically changing it, that's when everyone's in agreement that that's what's going to happen.
So for this project, there's not necessarily going to be social workers allocated to each of these cases.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would be the recommendation that you're making that we're moving forward with.
Oh, okay, okay.
But if there's any challenges or, pushback, resistance, that's when we can have the discussion. And if we do need additional support, then we'll talk about how we can do that.
Okay.
And I think just to mention, so it's at the point which Angela authorises the form in Eclipse, that's when the work lists are then triggered to effect that change. So yes, we want obviously it needs to be all agreed before that. Yeah.
And I do think, just to add, I think there has been discussions or issues in the past, because basically at the moment our review team, we don't have OTs attached to them. So basically when families have had double-handed care, because it's in place, it might have been for a reason when they were discharged from hospital or so forth, but it doesn't mean it needs to carry on. And especially, as we said, when it's Sarah studies, and whether or not it's still required. Funny enough, I actually authorised one only last week, Angela, on a Sarah study for double-handed care, but case wasn't on the list, and it was because of the fact that they were very unsteady. And even though someone's got using a Sarah study, it was all about reassurance and everything else, and the family would then turn around and was saying to the social worker, but if the second person's not there, it means that the wife, and they're in their 80s, it would mean that the wife wouldn't be having that space, because she would have to be there doing all the reassurance and holding and staying on one side. So you could get issues like that. But the main issue for us is around the fact that, because of the fact that double-handed is in place, is it really required? The social workers aren't really specialised in that area, which is why we've commissioned this service, so that we can actually see what's your view in terms of, is it required? Because sometimes for a social worker it's quite difficult to actually question when we don't have that speciality. So it'd be interesting to see how this whole process pans out.
So now, just in terms of the case example that you just brought up, have they recently been discharged from hospital, that person?
No.
No. And they're talking about reassurance, because as we had the conversation previously, if someone's saying that they need a second person with the SARA steady, sometimes there's an indicator that that's not the right piece of equipment for them. If they're unsteady on their feet, it might be that we need to explore another piece of equipment to enable them to feel confident and to be able to complete that transfer with one carer.
Yeah.
But we can continue the conversation.
So this is why I know you said that this keeps on changing frequently, but
no, it hasn't changed.
I know you said that it can change, and because there's quite a few more people that have got double-handed care. So I was going to bring this up at the meeting this afternoon.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for joining.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one more question. Sorry, it's just because you mentioned equipment, and I'm thinking, is the cost of saving equipment also part of this project as well? Because
that's
sometimes
definitely going to be noted.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a good question, Vivian.
Yeah, so because sometimes you might go in and it might be that there's been hoist, there's been lots of equipment, and this client is no more using them. You might necessarily mean that we need to collect those equipment, and it's part of the project, because without the project, those cost of equipment wouldn't be captured. So is there any like a spreadsheet or any where we can still capture that?
Yes, I'm going to be sharing the spreadsheet with Cian.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Any
do you want
other
me to
questions?
stay, Angela, or do you want me to go?
You're welcome to stay, but if you need to go, you can go.
No, I'm happy to stay because I'd like to know what's going on.
Okay. Mel, what do you mean?
But it's all going to come direct into the review team, so we want to know exactly what's going on.
Stop worrying. This is all additional hands for your team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy to go, and we can catch up in the afternoon then when we have our meeting. Okay.
No, that sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Mel.
It was lovely to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah. Mel's just a little bit anxious just in terms of it creating additional work for her team, which is understandable because, you know, as she said, there is no OTs in her team at the moment. So anytime, and what we've realised, and Catherine, I'm going to have to talk to you about this as well, is because we've been talking about this project for some time and helping people appreciate equipment and what would be usually single, what would usually be double, we're now getting more referrals. But this project at the moment, as it stands, it's 50 cases. So all it's going to do is end up being at the front door again to have additional assessments when it comes to reviews outside of this. But that's another problem that we'll deal with as we go along.
Okay. Brilliant.
All righty.
Okay.
On and on. The list goes on and on, trust me. And in terms of the social workers, they always see this project as an opportunity for OTs to help them with some of their own challenges. So,
well, Vivian, so I mean, you make a really good point. Just because how I envisage it is that this, at the end of the project, it will highlight the need of OTs to be within the review team, you know, long term. And that would be the business case in terms of this is the difference. And our director Harry always talks about impact. So it's like this is the impact this has had, and what we'll continue to have. So so yeah, I know you guys. I trust you all. Going to do really well.
Thank you.
I think I just wanted to wrap up with we got to the end of the review form, but just wanted to show you what happens at the very end once it's authorized. I know that you won't be doing the authorizing, but just so that you can see what happens on Eclipse and you know that it's moved on to the next stage appropriately. So I'm just going to really quickly show you that last bit. So we've finished our review form. I'm just going to save this section because we've done everything. So once you are happy to submit it for authorization, you would be submitting it from your exit and submit button at the top. Similarly, as what I mentioned before, in terms of when you've got a form you're trying to complete or submit, you need to be in the forms view in Eclipse. So if you do navigate away from the forms page and you go to case notes, say, you know, it's same thing applies. So make sure you're in the forms view, and then you can submit the form. It does ask you again for the subtype, just in case you want to change it. But if you don't, you just leave it as that and then choose submit. And then it will appear in a submitted state. So that's how you know it's in a submitted state, that icon. So then Angela will have access to it to then go in and authorize. I will just pretend for now I am Angela and I'm authorizing it. So once it is authorized, it then changes from a question mark, blue question mark, to a green tick, and it's just it's moved further down. So I just need to show you, there it is. There's your green tick, which tells you the form has been authorized. So now if I go back to work list, we'll see it has moved on. It's now generated the next review because we said we wanted a review in a year's time. So you've got that work list that's there. We've got, so this is that was one that we generated earlier. We've got our mental capacity assessment because we had said one was needed. We've also still got our follow-up work list that we generated before from the OT assessment, and also because we had said we wanted to tell finance about that change in circumstance with the benefits, that's the work list that has generated for us here. Let me just refresh to see if there's other, because I know it's still progressing some work lists. So I can also see now the brokerage work list that has generated. So that is to do the new bit of commissioning that we had asked for. And then we've also got our op support work list as well. So we know that the action that we wanted to happen has moved on. It's gone across to the relevant teams. So you can see the owner here is as it needs to be. So op support have that one, brokerage have that one. And that's how you know it's moved on effectively. I know there were some queries about some of the other bits, the major adaptations and the mental capacity assessment that you wanted to discuss with Angela. I don't know whether, because we're over time, I don't know whether you wanted to pick that up now or.
I think maybe in another meeting, Angela, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think conscious of time, and I've got a meeting at 1, so
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so I will send you, I've got the action to send you guys the finance team number. I'm also going to send you a document, just so like a 1-pager, just in terms of how you record the double-handed calls, because I think that might just be helpful. And yes, I know, Angela, we need to meet just to go through the authorization thing anyway as well.
We do.
So, yeah. Okay.
We do.
All right.
All right.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
It would
Thanks,
be
everyone.
Yeah, it would be good, Sian, to just touch base tomorrow. Would that work for you?
Tomorrow
1 o'clock,
let me check. It should be okay.
just to make sure that you've got everything that you need.
At 1, yes, that should be fine.
Okay, all right, brilliant. All right, I'll send over the spreadsheet, password protected, of course. And then we can talk about anything that's outstanding, anything else that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Brilliant.
thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Catherine.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Catherine. Thanks, Angela.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. And sorry, I was going to say recording of this meeting, but that's fine.